It was winter on the island of Sodor. The first fogs had begun to roll in from the sea. Thomas, Annie and Clarabelle loved the quiet of Misty Valley, but Thomas must be careful of rocks that sometimes roll onto the tracks. Cyril the Fogman has a very important job. He puts detonators on the tracks to warn the engines when there's fog ahead. Thomas the Tank Engine enjoys taking specials. Today, he was bringing a special to Brendam Docks. His load was to go onto a cargo ship. The ship was scheduled to depart at sundown. Thomas had to get to the docks before then, but the load was very heavy. So Thomas puffed as hard as he could. He pulled so hard, he broke his coupling rods. He wasn't going anywhere. "Oh dear," Thomas said, "I'll be late." His driver saw an old shed near the track. "If there's a telephone in there, I could call for help," he said. "Hurry," said Thomas, "and be careful, it looks a bit spooky." Then a voice boomed from inside the shed. "Do you mind? I'm trying to sleep." Thomas hoped it wasn't a ghost. Then his driver appeared. "Is it a ghost?" asked Thomas nervously. "It's a surprise," his driver teased. Then the fireman took some of Thomas's coal and headed off to the shed. "She could get us to the fitter's yard," his driver said. "If her boiler holds," added the fireman anxiously. The next morning, the Fat Controller sent the engines off to a useful day's work. "Maybe my coming here wasn't such a good idea, sir," Harvey chuffed sadly. "Nonsense," said the Fat Controller. "But the engines don't like me. I'm too different." "Different is what makes you special." And that made Harvey feel better. Out on the branch line, Percy was having trouble with trucks. Faster we go, pull him along, don't let him slow." "Help!" cried Percy. His driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. He went off the rails at Bulgy's Bridge. Luckily, no one was hurt. Bertie arrived and was pleased Percy was all right, but he was also very cross. "You've blocked the road," Bertie snapped. He was worried he wouldn't get the gentleman of the railway board to the demonstration on time. "When the Fat Controller..." "Buffers!" cried Percy. His driver hadn't seen the old chimney sink into the ground. The signal changed. Percy was so scared he steamed away as fast as he could. The next day, Percy was telling Donald and Douglas about the disappearing chimney. "It's the naughty gnomes," teased Donald. "We fat men with big feet that make strange things happen," said Douglas. "It's legendary. They steal your wheels and pinch your funnels." Percy didn't want to believe them, but he wasn't sure. The Fat Controller was waiting for Percy at Dryore Station. "I want you to collect some trucks from the abandoned mine," he said. Yes, sir," Percy answered, but he really didn't want to go there again. Percy hoped he wouldn't see anything else disappear. He slipped into the sidings and buffered up to the trucks. "Spooky," stammered Percy. Suddenly, another building at the old mine sank into the ground. He is excited about coming to the island of Sodor. Islands are surrounded by the sea. Salty loves the sea. Soon Salty arrived at his new job. "Ahoy, mateys, Salty pride of the seven seas. I'm a new diesel and I'm here to give you some help." Bill and Ben didn't think they needed any help, especially from a diesel. "Welcome to Centre Island Quarry," Mavis said proudly. Salty looked all around. Everywhere he looked, he saw nothing but rocks. "A quarry?" he cried. "There must be some mistake. I'm a dockyard diesel." "You're a quarry diesel now," said Mavis, and she explained that they had to complete an important job for the Fat Controller. Salty was sad that he wouldn't be working by the sea, but he knew what it meant to be a really useful engine, and he set to work at once. "Ah, well, at least there be trucks." "You better mind them," Mavis said. "They can be a bother." "He won't last 5 minutes," said Bill. "Those trucks will trip him up soon enough," said Ben. But to Bill and Ben's surprise, the trucks seemed to give Salty no... Percy often has the dirtiest work to do, but he likes to be clean as well as any other engine. So washdowns are important to Percy. But the Fat Controller had bad news. "Due to a water shortage," he said, "no engine shall have more than one washdown a day. Usefulness before cleanliness," he added, and left. Percy was upset. "I get dirty," he complained. "I need washdowns. Gordon only does it to feel important." "I am important," Gordon sniffed. "I'm an express engine." "You're a pouty puffer, Percy," teased James. "No, I'm not," wheezed Percy, and he chuffed away. Percy was loading trucks at the docks. He was trying extra hard to stay clean, but the troublesome trucks were being naughty. As Percy pushed them under the coal chute, they sang out. "On, on," they cried. Percy found himself under the chute, and coal dust flew everywhere. "Oh no," coughed Percy, "I'm filthy." Percy felt awful, but he knew he had to carry on. He delivers on the way to mail station. This makes Percy very cross. "The mail run is done. Is there any more? I can deliver it for you in a jiff." "That's what friends are for." "Delivering the mail is an engine's job," said Percy grumpily. Percy has many jobs, but carrying the mail is his favourite. It makes him feel really useful. The next morning, Percy was happily pulling the mail train. "Must be on time, must be on time," he chuffed. But up ahead there was trouble with the signal box. It was broken. The signal engineers did not know how long it would take to fix. Percy had to stop. It's not safe for engines to run without signals, but Percy was very upset. "I'm going to be late," he cried, "and it's not even my fault." So to take the headmaster, the Fat Controller was... While they waited, the headmaster played a lively tune. Peter Sam had steamed all through the night to bring Duncan his wagons. But as he approached the junction, a low-hanging branch knocked his whistle off. This meant he couldn't work until he got a new one. "I can't run on the tracks without my whistle," chuffed Peter Sam. "That would be too dangerous." "An engine's not an engine without a whistle," boasted Duncan, and just to prove it, he let off a big blast. But the rest of the engines just ignored him. Duncan chuffed away in a big huff. He was cross. "They're jealous of my fine whistle," Duncan huffed as he steamed through the countryside. He whistled at some sheep, but they were too busy eating grass to take notice. "Bah," said Duncan. "I need to whistle louder and longer next time." Soon Duncan approached a level crossing, where Elizabeth the quarry lorry waited with a farmer's prize bull. This time, Duncan whistled as loud and as long as he could. Said the bull. "Stop that nonsense, Duncan," Elizabeth called. But Duncan carried on cheerfully down the track. But he hadn't noticed his whistle had come loose. Then Duncan saw Terence ploughing a field. He'll get the loudest and the longest whistle yet, he chortled to himself. Being told what to do, especially by an engine. He became so cranky that he was careless with his hook. His hook knocked the switch, and the switch started the jet engine, and the engine began to whine. The whine got louder and louder and louder. "Uh-oh," said Cranky. Before he could say anything else, the jet engine was rocketing Thomas up the track. "Oh," said Thomas. The driver tried to put on the brakes, but Thomas couldn't stop. "Oh, boy!" The station master called ahead. "Clear the lines, it's a runaway train." Signals were changed and points were switched. Thomas had never been so excited. Thomas flew by James and rocketed past Henry and raced by Percy. They were amazed. Bertie was excited when he saw Thomas flying down the track. "Want a race, Thomas?" beeped Bertie. Sure enough, that night the wind blew and the snow fell heavily. The next morning, the Fat Controller arrived. He told the engines they were to have snowplows fitted. "And you are to collect something special from Callan Station. It's needed for the village feast on Toby's branch line." Thomas was excited about his special, but not about his snowplow. "Please, sir, my plough is awkward and uncomfortable. Do I have to wear it?" "Everyone has to wear a snowplow," said the Fat Controller. The fitters, his driver and fireman all helped with Thomas's snowplow. "We'll have to try that again," laughed his driver. "Big, horrid, awkward thing," Thomas grumbled. He was much happier when he arrived at Callan Station and saw his special. It was a beautiful Christmas tree. "The tree's to have lights and stand in the middle of the village," said Edward. "Make sure you get it to Toby safely." "I will," said Thomas. Thomas arrived at Maithwaite and Toby was... It's summer holiday time on the island of Sodor. Holiday makers come from far and wide to enjoy the beauty of the island. It's the busiest time of the year for the Fat Controller's engines. Thomas was excited. The Fat Controller had sent him to pick up a special to deliver to Dryor Airfield. "What have you got there?" tooted Percy. "A balloon," replied Thomas. "A party balloon?" asked Percy excitedly. "No," said Thomas. "This is a very special balloon," and he chuffed away. Soon, Thomas arrived at the airfield. And hot air was puffed into the balloon. "What is that?" huffed James. "A hot air balloon," said Thomas. "It will take holidaymakers on rides around the island." "Taking holidaymakers on rides around the island is our job," wheezed James jealously. Then, as if by magic, the hot air balloon rose silently up into the sky. "What if the hot air balloon takes our passengers away?" chuffed James. "What will happen to us then?" Wherever you find Bill, you will find Ben. Wherever you find Ben, you will find Bill. The Fat Controller had come to inspect his quarry engines. He found that Mavis and Bill were in fine working order. "Unfortunately, Ben," the Fat Controller said, "your buffers are damaged. You must report to the engine works immediately for a new set of buffers. Mavis, you will have to work with Bill until Ben returns." "Yes, sir," replied Mavis, and the Fat Controller drove away. Ben was happy. "I'm going to get new buffers," he gloated to Bill. "Well, I should get new buffers too," Bill complained. "We're twins, we do everything together." "But you don't need new buffers," Ben teased. You're only getting new buffers because you're clumsy, snorted Bill enviously. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Will you two stop being grouchy? Mavis scolded. Now, come on, Bill. We've got work to do. Ben couldn't wait to get new buffers. Later, Bill watched as Ben chuffed away to the engine works. He was green with envy. He wanted new buffers too. Bill returned to his job, but he wasn't thinking about work. All he could think about was Ben's new buffers. "Ooh," said Bill. "Look at that," laughed the boy. "The back engine must be the strongest and the best." Gordon was embarrassed. The Fat Controller spoke severely to Gordon. "You have said rude things about Edward," the Fat Controller said. "He proved today that he is useful, reliable, and very helpful." Gordon felt very ashamed. The next morning, Gordon apologized. "Thank you for helping me, Edward," puffed Gordon. "You really are a useful engine." "It's good to be back," Edward chuffed happily. The Fat Controller's plan had worked. There was no more talk about Edward retiring.